that even with Mother Nature, it's predictable. That's what farmers want. They need that certainty, and they get it with Pivot Bio.
Welcome back to coverage of the 2021 Pro Farmer Crop Tour.
Well, as you've seen throughout the night, the Scouts, they have a lot of fun on Crop Tour, but it is a lot of work, and it all comes down to this. They do it all for this. Let's get right to the numbers now. Brian and Chip, we'll pitch it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tyne. Yeah, I just want to throw this out there real quick. Record number of samples pulled on the 2021 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. 1,710 samples.
Wow.
Let's get ready to go with Iowa right now. Go.
Yeah, Iowa corn yield, Chip, 190.76, up 7.3% from last year. Pod counts are 1217.8, up 6.2%.
And Minnesota corn, 177.44. Minnesota soybeans, 1027.33. For the corn in Minnesota, that is down 9% from last year's tour. And on the soybeans, down 5.4% from last year's tour.
So what's your reaction there? And why don't we go through, we'll start with the Minnesota corn data, Chip and Brian. Why don't we go through that a little bit, walk us through it. What surprised you about that final tally there?
You know, all across the Corn Belt, the kind of a overwhelming theme has been an increase in ear populations until we get to Minnesota, and we're off 1.9%, drop it down from 102.34 down to 100.36. And that's honestly, that's very surprising because Minnesota has always been a leader in pushing plant populations and ear pops. And here we are. We've got some of the I-states now with an ear pop that's above Minnesota. That's, to me, that's a little surprising. So, but down 1.9% from a year ago, but that's still 1.1% above the 3-year average. So the push is there. I think some of that probably has something to do with the growing season and the planting season, that specifically that frost around Memorial Day. I think it was around Memorial Day. Probably took out some of those plants and some of the therefore some of the ears. The grain length down 5.8% from what we found a year ago. The kernel row, kernel rows around 15.96, just call it 16, was down a bit. And we've got all the major components pointing to the downside, so our yield estimate is off 9%. Now, USDA on August 1 had the crop off 13.5%. We didn't get into the central part of the state where the conditions are very tough. The Red River Valley it has been suffering all year long. So it feels a little bit like what South Dakota did. Yeah, we're down, but not as much as what USDA had us down as of August 1. But it's probably the part of the state that we did not and do not tour that is going to pull Minnesota down a little bit more as we get into the end of the season.
Yeah, but Brian, in Iowa, that's a state where you tour every single county. And so when you look at these Iowa numbers and take a deep dive into these Iowa numbers, what stands out to you when you got a pretty good grasp of the crop this year?
Well, obviously, Chip mentioned the ear counts, and they've been pretty eye-popping across most of the states that we've been in. There you see it over 102 ears in 230-foot a row, and up 5.6% from last year, but up 3.3% from the 3-year average. And then the grain length. I guess I'm a little surprised that the grain length is where it came in. Because I didn't measure all that much grain length, to be honest with you. My samples weren't close to that 6.87 inches. Just doing rough math in my head, but we had too many that were much shorter than that to get to that level. Kernel rows are kernel rows. They're always going to be about 16, and so if you see it down a fraction of a percent or up a fraction of a percent, it doesn't matter all that much. It's the ear counts, I think, and we have enough ears out there to offset some of that lower grain length in some of the states, I think. In Iowa, if we would have had a really good growing season, that grain length instead of 6.87, who knows? I mean, you
Even
can
if
add.
it's just a 7.10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then you're adding a pretty significant amount at that point in time.
Brian, I mean, did the dry spring help then with that ear count situation? We saw the impacts of the dryness, of the drought, but we had a lot of farmers that say, hey, listen, it was a smooth sailing spring planting season. Is that why we're seeing some of those numbers?
Definitely. You know, the crop got off to a really good start, and it was racing. And then it hit some speed bumps in some of these areas, and the bumps were a little bit harder and higher in some of those areas than others. But that fast start really allowed it to establish, that the plant populations, and then shoot ears, and then start to produce grain. And some of the ears were longer than others, and those types of things. But it was the quick start that really is the key, in my opinion.
One of the things that I was watching for very closely, because of some of the tougher conditions in some areas at the start of the year, was the ear placement or the ear set. Was it consistent down the row? And it was, you see it where it is consistent, where it looks like you could put the laser level over it and hit every ear. But there was a lot of up and down in that ear set this year, and saw some strange things. And I think this probably goes back to that frost that Mark was talking about earlier, where you get the little brother sucker plant that it looks like it normally came up later, and the two big guys on both sides of it are taking away everything that it needs. Couple of fields, the ear set on that sucker plant was above the ear set on the big plants. And I'm not exactly sure how that happened, why it happened, but it did.
Huh. Interesting. Hey, let's walk through a little bit of the soybean information here. We'll start with Minnesota and see if we can't pull up some of those numbers here and go through them. See what do they tell us? I mean, obviously it was interesting out in beans, right?
Yeah, drop it right down to the bottom line. 2021 moisture, 2.35. That's 23% below what we had a year ago at that 3.05. The total number of pods in 3 square foot is off 5.4% from a year ago with less moisture. And it finished poorly last year. So I don't know why we would look at this and say, it'll be okay. We've got fewer pods and less moisture.
Right.
The next 3 weeks are going to tell us. And that's not a cop-out. That's fact.
Hey, Brian, how does that compare to Iowa soybean and some of those data that we're seeing? Let's take a deep dive into that and those numbers, moisture, pod counts, all of that. How does it compare?
Well, like Chip said, always go to the soil moisture. That's the one that I look at, because the pods are the pods, and there's a sweet spot in there. If you get it too far above the sweet spot, it's a negative return. If you get below the sweet spot too far, obviously it's negative. You just don't have enough pods to produce. But what you need is the soil moisture to fill up those pods that are already established. And so, we're up 10.5% on soil moisture. But
it's dry.
It's dry at 2.63. Absolutely, it's dry.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the 3-year average there, and we're down 31%. So the better comparison is the 3-year average than year ago, in my opinion.
All right. So Brian mentioned the sweet spot on the pod counts. Yeah. I mean, we can share that with everybody. Put that, if we could, can we put that screen back up?
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that.
Because a year ago, Iowa was right at it. It's 1150 in Iowa. So this year we've got more pods out there, 6.2% more pods with less moisture and a greater moisture requirement from that plant. If we get the rains, great. But if we don't, this is going to be. It's going to be tough to get to the 58 bushel. If we don't get the rain, we're not going to get to the 58 bushel that USDA.
You got the plant trying to support more pods on a little bit more moisture.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to need significant moisture into the end of the year.
It's going to be tough.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hey, if we dive in to kind of pull back and look at this whole crop tour, I mean, we've gone every night now. Look at the numbers all the way across. We're going to pull up the graphic here and let you see it. As we walk our way through this thing, give me your gut check on this. What does it tell us?
The East is a beast.
Yeah, I mean, what stands out to me is Illinois and Iowa, normally, just right there with each other. But look at Indiana. I mean, Indiana's up pretty significantly.
Came to the party.
Yeah, it's number 2 on the list there, and Iowa comes in 3, and so Indiana's going to have to carry a heavy load here into the end of the growing season, I think.
Anything else, Chip, to you that really stands out as you look at the entire picture from the Pro Farmer Crop Tour this year?
I kind of look at that 151 out in South Dakota, and I kind of shrug my shoulders and think, because it's hotter. The stress level was greater outside of the tour area. I look at Minnesota. I kind of have the same reaction to that. Nebraska number I kind of like. It's a very kind of Nebraska-like number when we think about corn yields.
Well, and the other thing that pops out to me is Ohio 185. About Iowa 190. USDA had those on level playing fields as of August 193
yep.
both. Ohio's got a really good crop, but I'd say that it won't yield better than Iowa.
Yeah, they may have pushed a little hard
on
Ohio.
Or they shortchanged Iowa, one of the two.
Well, exactly. Good point.
They're not going to be equal.
Good point.
I mean, it is what it is. They're not going to be equal.
It'll be interesting to check it out. Hey, I know at some point Pro Farmer crunches some numbers, puts out their own calculations. We've got the historical maps here to show kind of how everything stacks up. Perfect. Talk us through some of those a little bit, and we're going to look at the all samples map first. Brian and Chip, you guys walk us through this.
Look at the trends, okay? That's the thing that we're really talking about. And what we do with the all samples is we take all the corn yield samples that we pulled throughout the week. Usually we say all 1,500 plus samples. Now we're saying all 1,700 plus samples for 2021. But look at how the trend follows along with what we see. Do we match up tight every year? No. But we do get the trend right typically, and that's the most important thing. And so that's an awfully good indicator of where this national average yield is going to be heading.
Okay, now that we've seen all the numbers, Brian, you hate when I do this to you, so of course I'm going to do this to you. One word to describe the entire crop that you've seen this week on Crop Tour. And, Brian, you are from Iowa, and I know sometimes you can't keep it to one word. You can hyphenate it, whatever you need to do to make this work.
Maybe one thought. Let's give it one word. You want to push?
Brian never has one thought. Always like 3 thoughts are racing through his head. So I guess boil it down to one thought then.
One thought. I'll give you one word here in a second.
I bet you will. I bet you will.
Yes. It's been 4 straight days.
Oh.
No, I think, Chip said it Monday night, I think it was. East is the beast. And that absolutely ties it in. I mean, that is the east of the Mississippi River is really, really good this year.
Roger Servine yesterday in Nebraska City had a really great comment, observation, when he said we're going to find out just how much corn we can grow on 8 inches of rain when it comes at the right time. That's great perspective. Great perspective. Before we go talk to the guys in the room, I also want to throw this one out. Good crops, but not enough to keep up with demand.
Interesting.
We didn't even get into that side of things.
Yeah,
Chip.
we didn't even get into that whole question. Absolutely.
I do like Rogers timely. I think and Dan Sturgill brought it up on Monday night in the after we got through Ohio, and he said the same thing. So we had 2 crop scouts, both producers, one from Ohio and one from Iowa, that said timely, and so maybe timely is the word this year.
Hey, appreciate it, guys.
One word, Tyne. One word.
One word.
I'm sure I'll get another word later. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
really
Chip.
appreciate it.
That one's hyphenated, too.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah, their mics are still on.
Yeah, shut off their mics.
That's just kidding. Hey, lots of fun. The Pro Farmer Crop Tour may be coming to an end, but there's obviously more work to do with these numbers. Now, tomorrow, Pro Farmer will announce its yield predictions for corn and soybeans. That's tomorrow afternoon. They'll take the numbers from the tour, combine it with historical trends and other data to make their own projections. You can join us for a special live report, 1:30 Central Time. We'll post that link so you can watch it at agweb.com.
Yeah, agweb.com, our social media media pages. You can check it out there. And then do not forget about Farm Journal Field Days coming up next week. Just like Crop Tour, you can choose either in-person or virtual events. For in-person, you can visit Whiskey Acres in Illinois, Silent Shades in Mississippi, or From Farmland in Kansas, where I will actually be next Friday.
It's going to be a good time.
For a live taping of U.S. Farm Report. We didn't get to go to Minnesota, so I guess we're going to Colby, Kansas this year instead.
Sounds great.
We would love to meet you there. It each actually costs $49 per person, or you can register to take part in the free virtual interactive event where you can chat with farmers across the country along with industry experts. That is Monday through Friday next week. To sign up, head on over to farmjournalfielddays.com. And Clinton, I know Eric Snodgrass will be part of Farm Journal Field Days next week. A key weather discussion is what he will have next week. I think that's in person that he will be speaking at some places. So make sure you check that out. FarmJournalFieldDays.com. The full agenda's there. Some great stuff planned for next week.
Absolutely. And if you're getting ready for harvest, I just did a great one-on-one with Missy Bauer talking about phantom yield loss and harvest timing. It's great. It's the cover story for Farm Journal Magazine this last month. It's a fantastic step through to show the way that she did it and did all the calculations. It's really good. And what better way to celebrate the end of summer, of course, than with a concert. This one will be for a great cause. Make sure you tune in to watch the Farm On Benefit Concert September 20th at 7 o'clock Central Time. Country music superstar Easton Corbett will perform along with American Idol contestant Alex Miller. Love that guy. He's so great. This year, now the concert will benefit the National FFA Foundation, and there are two ways that you can see it: by registering for free at farmjournalfielddays.com, or you can dance along or sing along wearing your blue jacket, if it still fits. I think you said that earlier this week, Tyne. Watching it on RFD TV at the same time.
Yeah, we'll have to call Mike Aberto for that.
That's right. Get him to come sing with us. Hey, a big thanks to everyone who made Crop Tour happen this year. It's been fantastic.
It has been great. It takes a lot of work each year, so thank you to everyone involved this year. Thank you for everyone tuning in and for your questions. We appreciate the involvement this week and everyone who made it the Crop Tour Live happen each night. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next year. Good night, everyone.
The 2021 Pro Farmer Crop Tour is presented by Pioneer. For cutting-edge agronomic advice for your farm, count on your local Pioneer team for year-round crop management insights. Pioneer, an American seed brand since 1926. By Pivot Bio Proven 40, predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen with Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. And by John Deere, helping you gain ground for the days ahead. The international sponsor for Crop Tour is the U.S. Soybean Export Council. Crop Tour 2021 is also supported by RCIS, by Precision Planting, by Bex, by Ag Leader, by Farm Credit Services of America, by Kinsey, and by AGI.